the new tech innovations and software, I mean, you have a company like Flexport, which obviously get a lot of media attention, and you have Xeneta, which you are representing. How would you describe this new industry about analyzing, maybe bringing more transparency, more data into the industry? Because to your point, just recently, maybe some people who own a ship like to hide their cards. Maybe they feel like they're playing poker back and forth in terms of the price, etc. Is this like a massive shift over the 10 years that you get companies who try to bring transparency to the space? And how would you just summarize this maybe new industry that is built on top on like the hard assets, right? Because there's a lot of software projects going on.
Why we do things, well, we do operate in quite different parts of that world. I mean, Flexport being a digital freight forwarder, and Xeneta being all about container shipping, freight rates, and air cargo insights. I mean, what we strive to do, I guess, both of us, is to bring transparency into a notoriously intransparent industry. So obviously, in the early days of Xeneta, I mean, we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year, so it's been quite a ride over the past decade. But obviously, from the start of it, people were instantly skeptical, saying, "How can you do this? Nobody will give you any data. Nobody will like what you do because you disrupt status quo in the market." I guess that was really jet fuel on the fire of our founders, that they wanted to prove them wrong. And instantly that was a success. Of course, building the company that we have today it's a quite different stage where we are right now than where we were when we started. But we're basically all about crowdsourcing that information from all of our customers, and so they see the benefit of contributing to our aim of making it more transparent. Because if you were to say, I mean, you literally, you cannot do it yourself. You can get bits and pieces from various other places. I guess many know the Shanghai Shipping Exchange, but that's all about, say, exports out of China. I mean, it may be the lion's share of the business, but there are so many other port pairs. Xeneta have 160,000 port pairs on a global scale, so there's business to be handled in many other places. And I guess adding to this transparency can only benefit not only the customers that buy the transportation services, but in the end also consumers like you and I, if they're capable of procuring their freight to a much better level. I mean, that will of course contribute also to more globalization, to lower cost for the end products, etc. Even though we discussed inflation just before. I mean, it's what you get from globalization is a better product. It's a wider selection, and it's more choices in terms of where you can make your product. So I think the quality of what we have here today is second to none.
What's the hardest data to collect? Is there some data sets that are very, very hard to capture, or is it just like a snowball effect? So once you have enough, it's easier to get the next one.
It's a very good question, to be honest, also, because of course what we have is not information from the carriers. So we do not push whatever rate sheets they may have on their spot platforms. What we bring is deals done. So our data is as strong as what we get from customers. So if we are seeking, for instance, going into a very new market, obviously we are a little bit in a chicken and egg situation. We need someone delivering also insights and data on say freight trade lanes in and out of that place, but also in order to get the customers in that place, we need something special to offer them up front. But that's what we do. I mean, we started also with a keen focus around a few shippers in and out of Oslo, and now we are all over the world. Right now, with a keen focus also on getting some access into the big Asian market, because also there's tons of shippers out there, and I guess we grow with our customers. So the more people can contribute, the better the overall product and offering also gets. So I can only encourage, those that perhaps do business in parts of the world that we do not necessarily cover to the extent that we cover in other parts of the world. A little bit of patience, and then I guess it all proves nicely in the end when we get together and bring that transparency around benefiting everyone in the industry.
Sounds perfect. Have you seen anything you love in sort of the decarbonization concept or project that's going on? Because whoever you talk to seems like they are a bit uncertain, and some people are very bullish on some technology. But to be honest, like, it seems like a very hard puzzle to crack which technology should be used, right? Do you see anything you feel very strongly about, or do you also feel like it's about experimentation and maybe also just heavy regulation and like force people to make decisions?
I think there are two aspects of this. Of course, who should focus mostly on cutting carbon emission? That must, of course, be the owners and operators, full stop. And they can do so in various ways. I think it's fair to assess that either you make use of fossil fuels or you do not. But economies of scale, of course, works super well in container shipping. The individual carbon footprint on each box is just so much better on a big ship. Because of course you burn more fuel on a big ship, but if you can add 4 times as many boxes, that's the ratio that you should be looking out for. At Xeneta, what we try to do is, of course, also to bring around actionable insights for our customers with a transparency product into that of carbon emissions from the carriers, and naturally our focus is not on the performance of the individual ship, like for instance the ship owner would be, or would have, but of course finding out who delivers the best numbers on any given trade lane. So if you are a shipper focusing on, for instance, goods from Asia to South America, you should be able to compare across the board of course, with a clear methodology that carrier A is better on the carbon emissions as compared to carrier B or C, for instance. So that product we're about to launch later in the year, and I think that will definitely push something special into an industry that's very focused on the assets. I mean, if we are to bring a product to the market where global shippers, and I guess that drive comes from customers, and it comes from the global shippers serving those customers. So obviously at some point in time we need, and I think that point in time comes faster than anyone can expect now, we need to be able to compare apples with apples here. We need to see what kind of carbon footprint you get from the individual services. And trust me, it's super complex to do, but we're doing all we can right now, and I'm looking very much forward to the product launch of that later in the year, because I think it will look quite different from what you see in the market from other offerings, and it will still also bring the incentive to where it should be, and basically looping me back to where we started on who should drive emissions down. Owners and operators make the investments needed to bring around not only ammonia fuel ships or methanol fuel ships, but finding out ways to constantly decarbonize the industry. It may be tricky to completely bring it down to an absolute zero, but if we can continue down the trail of lower emissions per unit every time, I think we're doing a super good job in global logistics.
Makes sense. If you just take another aspect of innovation, there's been so much hype regarding, self-driving cars, and of course, that's super dangerous because you have to make a software decision. Should you hit this cat or should you hit this child, right? So it's so many complex issues you have to take on. And the same in airlines, right? I don't think people would love to have an AI bot fly them over the world, right? But in shipping, it seems like maybe that's the most easiest scenario to imagine, that you don't really need people on board vessels, because maybe containers don't have feelings, right? Maybe they don't bother if who's taking them over the ocean. So do you feel like shipping is the one industry that you can see almost like like just a software service taking them back and forth?
Well, the containers themselves may not have feelings, but I guess the shippers with cargo on board surely feel the need for having the best possible transportation done when the value of the ship and the cargo exceeds $4 or $5 billion US for just one of the big ships, and whether the best solution is to have like a fully autonomous ship transporting your goods from A to B, or that a well-trained captain and his crew is the best one. I think we will see, say, more digital assistance to the global logistics going forward. I still think we're some way from having, say, fully autonomous ships on main trades. Having said that, we have one in. Well, I'm not in Norway right now. You're from Norway, but I guess we have Hydro setting up that Yara Birkeland vessel, which is a fully autonomous one to the extent of my knowledge. So it is capable. The American Army, the American Navy have been doing that for ages, and I guess we know all about drones. So the technology is there, but right now, from a regulatory perspective, the IMO is looking into what needs to change in order to progress this going forward, because there is something to take away from this. Not necessarily in terms of bringing down cost, which is often the driver behind implementing new technology, because the crew on board the ships are not the most expensive part of the voyage. That's still the bunker fuels and the price of oil. So I guess most of the technology-driven initiatives should focus on bringing down the bunker fuel consumption and, of course, also the emissions. And then later, perhaps, find out where should we set up, say, smart logistics, where we integrate fully autonomous ships that basically just dock themselves, and super smart containers that also find their own way from where they are produced and filled to where they see their end destination at a warehouse in Spain, for instance. So a lot of interesting initiatives. I tend to follow those as much as I can, because I think it's super interesting. But it's also, I mean, we're still many years away from having a fully autonomous fleet serving global needs in the liner shipping industry.